So I'm taking a look at a crazy kind of hybrid e-bike here that is the combination of a foldable bike, fat-wheeled e-bike, a downhill bike, and something in between there. So what we have with this is two batteries that you don't normally see. It's the first bike that I've covered that's got two batteries. So the seat post is a very large 19 amp hour, 48 volt pack, and then we have in the frame right here where it folds in half a, you could say, auxiliary battery that is 10 amp hours. So you can't use both of them at the same time. There is this cable here that you swap between them, so that is how you control which battery you're going to use. Because it's got the two batteries, the foldable design, and three suspension setup here, so in the middle, the rear, and then the front shock, it is extremely heavy. It is 40 kilos, making it, well, quite hard to push about, but luckily it's got a walk mode. So the suspension looks like it can take some huge hits, right? It looks almost like a downhill kind of setup, but a little bit of a spoiler here, it's more for show with a bike like this. So we do have a powerful 1200 watt rear hub motor, 8-speed Shimano gears, and a maximum speed of, if it's limited, 25 kilometers per hour. If not, it can get up to 45 plus with its peak 1200 watts, but it's normally around 750, this rear hub motor. The 160mm brakes are hydraulic and they're from a brand called Logan. Braking performance is decent, and you'll see later on in my braking test where I test them out, they're definitely a lot better than mechanical disc brakes, and I'm glad that they did not go with mechanical disc brakes. There are 3 shocks in total with this bike. Now it looks like it's going to have a lot of travel, right? It looks like a downhill bike, a dirt bike, but really the rear shock only has literally about an inch of travel, if that. And our middle shock is even worse. It's really just there for aesthetics because the travel you get out of it is next to nothing. I'm talking only about 5 to 10 millimeters. So it is really just there for, I feel, aesthetics. So when you first take a look at this bike, you think with that front shock that, oh, this must be a downhill bike, that it's got a lot of travel on that front shock, especially this style of shock. Well, you'd be wrong there because it's only approximately 3 inches of travel. So again, it's kind of more for aesthetics, just like that middle shock and the rear shock, you don't get a lot of travel. Now on the rear we have this saddle, so someone could sit on this, but there are no foot pegs, unfortunately. And here we have an LED brake light. So it's got 2 lights that are on either side all the time. And when you apply the brakes, they are a little bit brighter. The front light is another LED light that's wired into the main battery, and it's bright enough, it lights up the path ahead of you, but I wish it was a little brighter for safe nighttime riding. It does have a reflector below it, which is good. And speaking of reflectors, there is one with each of the rims. So they're 26-inch rims with those 4-inch wide fat tires. Now, if you've never ridden fat tires before, they are quite fun. They run a low PSI. Normally I put about 15 in them only. So they soak up a lot of bumps and smooth out the ride and give you a bit more extra traction in conditions like this, off-road. The X26 seat is quite wide. It is comfortable, and so far no problems with it at all. Now it is height adjustable. And because that seat post is actually our battery, it's 19 amp hours, it's a very large battery, it's lockable too. So they give you a little key here, you can lock that in place so no one can just walk off and steal your battery. Now just below here, there is actually an LED light that when you turn the battery on, so this is the battery power button at the top there, that light is on the whole time. And then we have this removable cable. So this is the cable you use to swap between the batteries. You can pull it out and then plug it into our secondary backup reserve battery that's in the frame. In order to access that battery, you need to fold the bike in half. So here's our folding latch, and it's quite strong around here. There's no cracks I can see in the frame. I've been throwing it down some big drops around here, going and riding along some really rough road. So simply just push the little button here, pull that back, and then you can proceed to flip it around. But it's quite hard to do so because it's a very heavy 40-kilo bike. This battery capacity is 10 amp hours, and the crazy thing about the design of it, that there is no hole for the charge port once it's in the frame. So you need to charge it, you have to remove the battery. Every single time you need to unfold the bike, slide out the battery, then you can charge it because the charging port is located on the side of the battery. Then this is what it looks like when it is fully folded up. So it's still a huge, heavy bike. You don't really want to be folding this and lifting it into a car And you're going to need an exceptionally large boot or trunk, of course, to fit this in. Now, I think why they made it a foldable is so we could have the removable battery. I think that is really the only reason behind this. So at least both of the batteries are removable. Now, plugging it in when you swap over from the main battery to this auxiliary battery is quite simple. You just need to push in the cable without having the bike fall over here. Push that in, it goes click, and it's locked into place. But it means you have now this annoying cable that's on the side that you sometimes hear banging and rattling around. The charge time of this main battery is approximately 8 hours. The auxiliary battery is around about 4.5, and they charge off a 48-volt system. You can see, at least with this main battery, the charging port is just above the plug right here for it. So it's easy to get to. In order to charge this one, you don't need to remove the battery. This handlebar can be brought forward, be brought down. We do have brake levers that feel pretty good here, being hydraulics. So there is an accelerator here. If you are in one of the 3 different modes, if you're just in the power mode, that is, then you can use this. You have to be very careful with this because it will just launch off, so it is a little bit dangerous. Just below the accelerator, we have our horn, which is quite loud, and we've got a large AMOLED color screen, which I do like. So this screen is very clear. We've got our speed, the different levels. So using the controls, if you hit the little I button and hold that down, you go to the normal mode from assist. So that doesn't give you any pedal assist. Then you've got the sport mode where you can use the accelerator. Now tapping it, you can go through our trip time. You can see the max speed there, so 47.7 kilometers per hour. Average speed of 20 that I've done. Total distance right now is 30 kilometers. This is, by the way, the second charge I'm on, and my trip distance can all be seen. This is my favorite one though, the power, because I sometimes see this peaking at the 1200 watts. So it's a bright, clear screen. We do have a cruise control mode that works with the accelerator, and you can clearly see the battery life with a % there at the top. So we have the I button that I talked about just before. This is the power on and off, plus and minus our pedal assist levels, and this is for the light. Now it does have a built-in ambient light sensor, so the light can come on automatically, or you can just force it on manually. Now if you do hold this plus button up, that turns on or off the cruise control function, and holding this down, it can then go into a walk mode. That's very handy when you need to push such a heavy bike up a hill. On the right, we have our gear selector. So this is to go down the gears, the trigger here to go up them. And you can clearly see here which gear you're in. So 1 up to 8 different gears with this model. The shifter is a Shimano Altus, very common, super entry level. It's right at the bottom bracket when it comes to Shimano gears, but hey, at least it does have Shimano. The chain is a DG brand chain, and it is painted silver, as you can see, which should help against rust. The pedals are Wellgo pedals, so that is a known brand. It's got reflectors in it, and they are metal, but this could vary from bike to bike depending on what they use. So the cable routing is external. It looks quite messy, like spaghetti here underneath. I wish it was internal, would look a lot cleaner. So what can I say about the paint job here? Well, the paint job, the finish, this matte gray, is all right, but I do see a lot of rough areas in the frame where you can see that where they've just been grinding down where the welds are and things. Does look a little uneven, a little bit rough. So I'd have to rate the frame quality and just the finish of it to be average. Finally, how's that kickstand? Well, it seems sturdy enough. It doesn't rattle, but it's dropped down already on me. It's struggling with the heavy 40 kilos weight of this bike. So it's a bit of a concern. I can see this bike easily dropping over if you're not careful because of how heavy it is and the style of kickstand. So let's have a look now at what it is like to ride. So it is a large, heavy bike, as I pointed out at the beginning there, that it's got a lot of weight to it because of the extra components, the extra battery, the suspension and everything. And it is quite a large frame here too. Now I've got the seat position up just a couple of notches. You can actually put that up quite a bit higher. Now I'm 184 centimeters tall, but it will cater for people right up to 190, possibly even higher there. And the handlebar distance from the seat is quite a long way, how I've got it at the moment with these handlebars. So the handlebars, you can adjust them, you can bring them a little bit closer, you can even push them out a little bit if you needed to do so. So you can see where my knees are, and in the handlebars there's no way that they're going to strike the handlebars there. So I've got it currently in the sport mode. In the sport mode, it's not using pedal assist at all. So just to hold down the I button, I put it on to assist now, and then when I start to pedal, straight away it kicks in. It only needs about 2 kilometers before the speed sensor then does kick in and away you go. So this will take me up to 25 kilometers per hour, which is the legal limit here. But this model that I do have is a pre-release version that is actually unlocked from them, but I will end up locking it later on. So it's comfortable riding along like this, no problem. And the motor's got a lot of power, a lot of torque, up to 1200 watts peak power, which is a lot, but it is a heavy bike. And you definitely notice that in the frame, the way it is. The suspension gives us a little bit of travel, so I can easily go up like a little curve here, ride straight up that. The suspension soaking that up, not a problem. Another little bump here, that's easy. And I will take it off-road later on too and see how it does perform. Now up ahead I have a little bit of a rough patch here, and I'm in pedal assist level 5, so there are up to the 5 levels, as I pointed out when we looked at the screen. But just going over this, absolutely no problem, but I can hear the battery that's located in the front is rattling about a little bit in the frame. So what about the top speed? Well, you can get it up to around about 45-50 kilometers per hour if you do have it unlocked. And I love the noise of these fat tires. They got really bad rolling resistance here on the road, of course, but I love how loud they are. People can hear you coming. So in a way, it's kind of like a safety feature. Now for my climb test, so if you haven't seen my other videos where I test out e-bikes and e-scooters, this is approximately 25 in parts and about 30-degree gradient here, the climb. So it is reasonably steep, and we'll see how it fares. But I'm thinking it's going to be quite good here because I've got a full battery and it does have a peak 1200 watt motor. So I'm just going to push off and see if the pedal assist will kick in straight away when I need it. Oh, it hasn't. There we go. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Only a couple of turns of the crank and then it did detect that I needed the pedal assistance there. So it's pulling about 700 watts at the moment. I can even go up gears if I wanted to. I will. Second gear now. And the third. So it is climbing really without a problem. And I have seen, yes, on the screen, it's showing the 1200 watts that it can peak at. So it does have plenty of power. But what happens if I turned it all off? Just put it into first gear, no pedal assist now. Oh boy, this is impossible. Oh, even standing. Oh, this bike is too heavy, and with the fat wheels, wow, you can't climb without that motor. Now for my braking test, I'll get up to 30 kilometers by the time I hit this post here. So 30, 31, 32. Oh, because it is such a large, heavy bike, I find the distance to brake is quite a bit more than others. However, the braking performance itself on those hydraulic disc brakes, 160 millimeters, is good. You can stop safely when you need to, plenty of braking pressure, and you can lock up the rear tire if you wanted to do so. It's that powerful, the hydraulic disc brakes. And just how does it handle the rough, rocky stuff? So the 4-inch fat tires do soak up a lot. The suspension, while it looks like a downhill bike, is actually pretty useless. Very little travel to it. And let's see if I can just go down this steep bit here. Whoa, my seat's a little too high for that. And now a little bit of off-road ahead, see how far I can get. So it's doing a lot better than other bikes here because again of those tires and the power of this motor. Oh, just able to get up this. So it actually is climbing pretty well. Up against all of this rocky stuff, if you just keep powering through it and have good momentum, you can climb quite well. This is really surprising me. I'm riding back down that same trail. It's going all right, but I can hear that battery is clanking around and they're making quite a bit of noise. But these tires are soaking up all of these rocks and bumps really well. And then what about our range? So with the 19 amp hour battery, let's work on this one first. I lose approximately 10% for every 5 to 6 kilometers that I ride, which isn't too bad. So we're looking around 50 to 60 kilometers with some large climbs. And bear in mind that I weigh 82 kilos, so I'm not the lightest rider out there. So that's good, around 60. And then we have the 10 amp hour pack, which I'm looking at approximately 25 kilometers, maybe even less, around 20 out of it. So you're looking about 80 kilometers for the total range. That's a little shy of the 100-kilometer claim that they do say, but I can see if you don't have as many climbs that I've been going around here, and you weigh a little bit less and you pedal maybe a little bit more, that it's probably possible to be able to get that really good range thanks to the large 26-inch size wheels. Of course, they're so much better than the 20-inch size or the 16, those smaller foldable bikes. And this is where this bike comes into a bit of a gray area. I mean, what is it? Is it a downhill bike? Well, definitely not with the shocks on them, with only about 3 inches of travel, basically no travel from the middle one, and maybe about an inch on the rear shock. It really is mostly for aesthetics, but with those nice spongy 4-inch wide big fat wheels, it does soak up a lot of bumps. It's very cruisy and nice to ride along on. However, why did they make it a foldable? There's some really weird design choices. I would not have made it a foldable because that could be later on a bit of a compromise in the design for strength, although it does seem very strong. The latch mechanism's good. It is reinforced around here, but it's because the removable battery, I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, they're both removable batteries. It's located here in the frame, so you need to fold the bike, or at least split it in half a little bit to be able to pull the battery out to charge it, is really poor. It's such a poor design choice, I think, to do that. Or at least make it a fixed battery, or if you're going to make it removable, have a different style. But I guess for the strength of the frame, they had to do it this way. They had to make it foldable. But it is pleasant to ride. It's just that weight, the big one for me. The weight really puts me off. And there are some rough patches with the frame. It's not exactly super high quality, the finish of the frame. You can see that they've basically just been grinding away at it to make it look okay, and then just simply paint over the top of it. So plenty of power too, it climbs well, and that is the full story of the ENGWE X26.